Everyone. Today we're going to do your flower dissection. So you'll need your student investigation sheet 3D. It's on the Google Classroom underneath the flower dissection. So either have it set up so that you can take notes in your journal or have your paper printed or in a way that you are able to take those notes. So I will switch our camera so that you can see the flower that we're dissecting and share my notes page with you. And make this bigger. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so the first part of our flower dissection is we're going to look at the flower that I'm providing you. And this is as good as it's going to get for right now. And we'll talk about how to adjust our lesson as we go, as we get down to the end. So I want you for a second just to sketch the flower that you see. It's a carnation, just like the flower in the other video that we put in the red water. So go ahead and just do a sketch of the flower and what it looks like to you, okay? And if you need to pause the video, you absolutely can do that now. The next part that you're going to do is you're going to use the ruler to measure the stem, okay? So our stem on this flower is from where I've cut it to the bottom right here, okay? So take the ruler, and I know it says centimeters on your paper. We're just gonna do inches because my ruler doesn't have centimeters and we have enough to worry about these days. So looks like we're at about 2.5 inches on our stem. So it says to glue or tape a piece of the stem below, just illustrate it. That's just fine. So our measurement, we're gonna cross out 2.5 inches for our measurement, okay? The next part tells us to locate a leaf. So we can either use one of these or we can take a leaf from here, and I'd rather just take one of these, take it off, and it wants us to measure and record the leaf and then glue or tape it. Again, you're just going to illustrate. So we'll measure it first, and I'd say it's about 1 1.75 inches. So there's 1/4, 2/4, or 1/2, and then 3/4. So I'd say 1 3/4 inches. Make sure you include your units since we're changing the units. And we'll say, since we took the leaf from this guy, we'll say there's 4 leaves total. We have 2 up here and 1 down here, and then this one that we took off and measured. And go ahead and illustrate your leaf below, right here. Kind of long, skinny. Perfect. Okay. Our next thing that we need to do is we need to locate the green sepals at the base of the flower. So again, the sepals are what they look like leaves, and they cover the flower before it blooms, okay? So it says tuck your finger beneath one and gently tear the sepal toward the stem. When you cannot tear the sepal any further, change direction and start to tear down the sepals to the left, removing all of them. Oh, wow. Okay. So, got some there. Got one here. Okay. So if we were able to take it off all in one piece, it just looks like a flower without any petals. So it says, how many sepals does your flower have? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Pick one sepal to measure from top to bottom, so from the top to the bottom. And it looks like the sepal is about 1 1/4 of an inch. So we'll put that to the side and scroll our notes up. We have 6 sepals, and it was 1 1/4 inches. Okay, and draw your sepal in the box. They look almost like leaves, but they're not as long, skinny. All right. Our next step is to look at the flower's petals. So it says they should be loose and easy to remove. And we want to remove each petal carefully. So since we're working with a carnation, there's going to be lots and lots of petals. If you do this on your own and maybe you use a daisy or something with less petals, it will be less time consuming. But if we remove all of the petals carefully, we're going to count how many we have and then measure one. Draw a petal in the box. So why don't you take time while I'm removing them to draw one of the petals that I've taken off in your box, in your journal, or on your paper. So I'm being very careful not to remove this middle part because it's a different part of the flower. These are not petals. So if you can remember what they're called. I'm being very careful not to remove those so that I don't ruin that structure so we can learn about it. So I don't know, I would guess probably 25 petals. Maybe more like 35 petals, we'll estimate, since we're using a carnation. 35 petals, and we'll take this petal to measure. So we're going to measure its length. So carefully setting our petal on the ruler, and we'll round to the nearest 1/4 inch, so 2 inches, 2 1/4 inch for the petal. 2 1/4 inches. And then make sure you draw your petal in that box. Okay, now we're looking at the stamens, which I was really careful not to touch, and they're right in here. Okay, so we want to remove them from the flower, which I'm not sure how to do. We've got 4. I'm just gonna let you record that now. There's 4. I can't remove all of them without totally destroying it. There's 4 stamens, and the stamen, the longest one, is about 3/4 of an inch. That one. Okay. And the last part, and they're just really long and thin, just like that. That's how I would draw it. Okay, the last thing I think that we're going to look at is the pistil. And that's all the way inside here. Remember, it's in the center. And I am having a hard time getting it even to come out, but it's all the way here in the center of the flower. Okay. Let's see if we can get it open a little bit further. Yeah, on this one I can't find the pistil, but that's okay. But that's where it is, and then this is where the ovaries would be for the seeds, right? So if you'd like, you can try and draw the inside of the flower, but I would put the note 1, right? And I would say could not measure. And again, like all different flowers, like our lily from the other day, they all have different structures, and well, they all have the same structure, but they all look different. So on the lily, the pistil was really large, and on here, it's really hidden. So we just have to be kind of careful and work with what we can. All right. So this is a really important part of dissection. We've finished dissecting the flower, and we've made kind of a mess here, okay? When you dissect things, you need to make sure that you clean up your workspace completely, and this will be really important when we get into dissecting the squids, or if we're able to dissect the cow eyeball together. We really make sure that we clean our space correctly, just so that we don't leave anything behind, and we remember that we're respecting the dignity of God's creation that He's given us to learn from. So I'm going to take this space and actually just going to pile it up nicely so that I can put it away later when I'm all done with our video. Okay, our last part is collecting data. So we're going to change all of our measurement units to inches, just so that we can remember. And I want you to go back through and fill in all of the inches here that we measured for each of the plant parts. So if we go back to the beginning, our stem was 2.5 inches and our leaf was 1 3/4 inches. Our sepal was 1 1/4 inches, And our petals were 2 1/4 inches. And our stamen was about 3/4 of an inch. And this we couldn't measure. So I want you to set that up like that. Now, as you do walks outside with your family or you're out in your yard, I want to encourage you to notice flowers, but also recognize that I don't want you picking flowers out of your family's garden without asking for permission. And the same goes for picking flowers out of someone else's yard. Please don't pick flowers out of someone else's yard. But I do want you to try and fill in at least one of your own. So we'll label this from a nature walk. I want you to try and find a flower that you can try and dissect and follow all the steps that we just went through, and then fill in your data here next to your nature walk section. Okay. And then I want you to explain any similarities or differences in each plant structure, and then what you can decide about flowers from your dissection. And that one you don't necessarily need to wait to do for your own flower, but you can kind of tell based on just looking at the difference between the lily and the carnation that we just did. What do we notice that maybe different flowers need different things, or maybe different flowers grow leaves differently? What can we conclude about flowers based on our dissection that we did together? So if you have any questions, let me know. But again, please don't pick flowers out of someone's yard without asking for permission first. And if you're picking flowers and you go to the park or to Rancho San Rafael and you pick a flower, make sure that there's nothing attached to it, or that it's not a special flower. Just be aware of where you're picking flowers and who you're taking the flowers from. So with that, I will leave you to do your own dissection and have fun. Bye.